Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Tonight is March 3rd, 2019. It is Sunday evening. And welcome Smaulgld game changers and mug stackers, silver stackers, and the like. Well, we've got a lot to cover tonight. Last night we did Saturday Night Silver with Smaulgld and SD Bullion. It was going well for a while. We had James Henry Anderson on. We were going through the top 10 selling bullion products at SD Bullion, and around number 5 or 6 my mic died, and even before that we had some technical difficulties with YouTube. So I think, as Joe pointed out, I am being shadow banned on my own channel. Hopefully nothing like that will happen tonight, but you never know. So tonight we're going to go through a number of things, and eventually we'll get to Bitcoin and mugs and lots of stuff tonight. Alright, so let's get into what's going on. Let's just check out already the gold and silver markets are open. And gold is up $1.60 to $12.94. Silver up 3 cents to $15.21. Platinum up $1 to $8.58. And palladium just keeps heading on higher. Is at $15.34. That's up $9. The dollar index is actually up to 96.39, even though Donald Trump was complaining that he doesn't want the dollar to be too strong. So far, Donald Trump's yakking has not managed to pull the dollar down. He has managed to talk up the stock market, but he hasn't managed to talk down the dollar yet. We'll see how that goes if he continues to complain about the strong dollar and quantitative tightening and so on. All right, let's get into some of the stories for tonight. One of the things I do want to talk about, and we are going to talk about, are the influence that some people think they have, or somehow that their opinion is somehow factual and a harbinger or indicative of what's going to happen in the future. You know, you hear all the time, this is unsustainable. We're going to talk about that as well in quite detail. I got a couple of examples to give you. Where should we start? Well, let's start with this poll we did. Now, the reason I want to start with this poll is just because people have opinions, and I just like to collect them and see what people say. So, a question I asked on Twitter was, and I also asked the Smaulgld game changers and mug stackers on YouTube, if you had just 1% of your overall wealth to put into a speculative asset, what would it be? Initially, it looked like 52% said Bitcoin, 27% said a penny or a mining stock, 19% Litecoin, 2% even picked lottery tickets. I'm not sure how that works out, but I guess it depends on how big you think the lottery is. Went through a couple of iterations that changed a bit, and we can see here Bitcoin still holding on the second iteration after 82 votes at 54%. Penny stocks and mining stocks neck and neck with Litecoin and other cryptos, and still no one picking lottery tickets after 82 votes. And then we move on to, let's say, after 98 votes, Bitcoin falls back a bit. Penny stocks and mining stocks pick up to 30%. Litecoin, cryptos to 23%. And lottery tickets bringing up the rear. And the final results, well, it's still open, but final as of now, 105 votes. It looks like 67% of people would opt for the cryptocurrencies, either Bitcoin or Litecoin. And about a third would go for penny stocks or mining stocks. And 2% might pick a lottery ticket. Let's see what the people said over on YouTube. The Smaulgld game changers. Wow. Now, you guys are more interested in penny stocks and mining stocks, nearly 40%. But yet, the Bitcoin and Litecoin crowd, or the Bitcoin and crypto crowd, that includes altcoins, still 53%. And we've got some lottery players here. We've got 8% who would pick the lottery ticket. I guess, you know, mining stocks, penny stocks, they do have the chance to be 10 baggers, 100 baggers. And I guess at the same point, so do Bitcoin, Litecoin, and so on. Lottery tickets, I guess there's an even bigger opportunity, I suppose. So, but again, the problem with a lottery ticket is once you lose, and it's over and your chances are done. You buy Bitcoin, Litecoin, penny stock, a mining stock, hold on to it, could go to zero, but at some point you might get that return. It's actually a smart allocation, 1%, to put something into a real flyer. Nothing more than that, because a 100% or even a 10x or 2x return can really smooth out any losses in your portfolio. And if you lose the 1% in its entirety, it's not the end of the world. We've talked about that before. All right, let's move on now to some news today. Now, Donald Trump, he's got a lot of things going on right now. Now, the Mueller report looks like it's coming out. Now, this is very interesting. The Washington Post plans to issue what looks like a guide to the Mueller report. This is on Amazon. Just go to Amazon, type in the Mueller report. March 26th is when this is supposed to come out. Now, I would imagine once the Mueller report comes out, if it does come out, now I'm not expecting it to come out because there's no statutory requirement that the report comes out. In fact, if it does come out, the report is not going to be an indictment. It would not be part of a legal case. It's just going to have certain findings. And if that's the case, then it's really a political issue, not a legal issue. And maybe that is what's going to happen. Maybe it is going to be a report that talks about general Russian interference. It's not, I wouldn't expect it to exonerate Trump. I would expect it to make it look like there's a lot of suspicion, a lot of bad things out there, but nothing that ties directly to Trump, in which case then it just stays and has a life of its own. And obviously this Mueller report will be out there. The Washington Post will comment on it. We also find, which I find fascinating, if you also type in Mueller report on Amazon, that Alan Dershowitz is also going to have a book deal, it looks like, or he's going to comment on the findings of the DOJ Mueller report. And that also is due on March 26th. Now, where this date comes from, March 26th, and how between now and then the Washington Post and Alan Dershowitz are going to write up their commentary or annotations to the Mueller report, I'm not sure. And I'm not sure how Amazon has the, I don't know if it's audacity to actually publish or to indicate that they might have these books available by a specific date. Obviously, the Mueller report, if it has been already produced and handed along to people, that's would be pretty much a leak, and I'm sure that's not what's happened. But where this March 26th date comes across, I don't know. Anyway, we'll get your thoughts on that when we go through the comments. More on Trump and his emergency at the border. Breaking today, Senator Rand Paul says he will vote for the measure blocking Trump's emergency declaration, paving way for passage. And what they mean is passage of a Senate proposal that squashes Trump's emergency. Now, the Congress already passed one. Now the Senate has passed it. This will pave the way for Trump's first veto of his administration. That's pretty interesting that he's been supposedly an unpopular president and he's yet to veto a bill. Just briefly, the rationale on the rejection of Trump's emergency is not that there is not an emergency, although some will have voted against it on that basis. The president is fully within his constitutional authority to declare emergencies, and presidents have declared emergencies over the last 30, 40 years, very numerous times. The issue here is not whether there's an emergency. I don't think that you can squash it on that basis. You can disagree. But the constitutional and the statutory authority does exist to declare an emergency. It's whether the president has the constitutional authority to allocate funds towards the emergency. And that's what the question is, because in general, constitutionally, it's the Congress who allocates funds. And I believe that is the basis for Senator Rand Paul's opposition to this. All right, what else do we have? Now, interesting, Trump was at CPAC. Now, what CPAC is a conservative meeting. I guess it happens every year. The only thing interesting I thought he said was he's going to sign an executive order. I haven't seen that it's been signed yet, requiring universities to support free speech or lose federal aid. Now, I don't know what the details are in that. I'm not, again, this is, again, a constitutional issue. I don't mean the First Amendment. I mean whether the president can be the one to withhold funding to universities for not supporting free speech. I'm not sure what supporting free speech means, but we'll have to take a look when that executive order comes out. And some people say he missed out on also, what about the lack of free speech or the quashing of certain voices on social media like Facebook, Twitter, Google, and the like, but he didn't touch on that as well. All right, what else do we have in the news before we get back into gold, silver, and Bitcoin? This is very important. Now, those of you who've been following this channel know that back in 2014, I was talking about what you see on this chart here, that the U.S. would eventually, because of its fracking and shale oil, will become a major oil producer, and as such, that would have many significant impacts. One, it would make the United States no longer dependent on foreign oil. It would create jobs, but it would also reduce the United States' reliance on the petrodollar or Saudi Arabia to support that petrodollar. And as I was saying, was the petrodollar is less important even as of 2014 because the dollar is not supported solely by the fact that Saudi Arabia has agreed to price its oil only in dollars and only to accept dollars for that payment, but that countries hold dollars in reserves for other reasons other than just to buy oil. In 2014, as you can see, the United States has surpassed Saudi Arabia and Russia in the production of oil and is now becoming a major oil exporter, which means if you believe that the dollar needs to be supported by the fact that countries need to buy and hold dollars in reserves in order to make those buys, oil, well, they need to hold dollars in order to buy oil from the United States. And since Trump has been in office and since Trump has squashed the Iran deal and has supported Saudi Arabia even in light of the Khashoggi murder, well, now countries need Arabia. That's pretty much nailed down despite this whole petro-yuan nonsense about China trying to require Saudi Arabia to buy, to accept yuan for the oil. They're not. The Saudi Arabia is now firmly entrenched on the United States side since the United States squashed Iran, but also Arabia, but they also need dollars to buy oil from the United States and natural gas from the coal from the United States. So the idea that the petrodollar is going to collapse is a bunch of nonsense, and you don't even need oil backing the dollar. But if you do need oil to back the dollar, you now have double the reason to back the dollar because you have Saudi Arabian oil and U.S. oil being traded for dollars. And that's all trackable on the Smaulgld websites. Raise rates would raise them as much as they could, maybe not normalize them. And that's indeed what they've done, even though many commentators said they can never raise rates, they'll never raise rates, they'll raise them once and then they'll go to negative interest rates. You know, those of you who've been following this, I think will happen based on reality, not based on trying to push a narrative that end of the petrodollar or gold 50 famous bet that if Bitcoin is not $1,000 by the end of it, looks like next year that he will eat insert part of his anatomy. We're going to talk about Bitcoin a little later on, potential for its price. All right, now let's look at Bitcoin investment. This is the thing that people, I still, they don't get it. They're not paying attention. They're just looking at the price, and therefore they're saying it's over, Bitcoin's over. We're going to talk about that in the final segment. But here's an example. Now, Jack Dorsey, we talked about the other night, his Square Cash app sold 166. And the interesting thing about that $166 million worth of Bitcoin, each quarter during 2000 fell. So, for example, annualized basis, that'd be $200 million worth of Bitcoin, but they only sold 166. That's because they sold 90 million in the second half and 71 in the first half, and stronger than the quarter before. So that's just a point. But here you have Jack. He's got one of these little out-of-the-box notes on the Bitcoin Lightning Network from Asa Hodl. Now, many of you don't even know what the Lightning Network is. It doesn't really matter to the person who's just casually paying attention. But if you're casually paying attention and you have it in your mind, Bitcoin is going to zero. The price fell 85%, and that is all I need to know. It is over. Well, that means you're not really paying attention, and maybe you do need to learn more. I'm not going to do it tonight, more about the Lightning Network and so on. But I write here, most people don't know what the Lightning Network is or what a node is or a channel. Of course, I spell lightning wrong. I say most people don't even know how to spell lightning. But again, this is one of the things that I talked about the other night, the creeping adoption and acceptance of Bitcoin. You see it, you're not paying attention. If you're only looking at headlines and price, you think it's over. Again, we're going to talk about this in more detail as we go on. But here, and people are not paying attention to this. Circle, like Bakkt. Bakkt is a company which is backed by the New York Stock Exchange, Microsoft, Boston Consulting, and Starbucks. It intends to launch a crypto trading platform where you can trade coin in physical delivery. You can have it stored there, and they're going to facilitate the trading and use of Bitcoin in commerce, including at Starbucks. Now, finished? No, it's not finished. It's just they're raising more money, and they're going to expand their offering, and then they're going to get the regulatory approval. And this is from Bakkt itself. The acquisition underlines the fact that we're not for the launch of regulated trading in our crypto market. CFTC is not as hard to get past as the SEC. They take the proceeds, they go out, they expand their capabilities through acquisitions. All this is happening. It doesn't all have conditioned to the financial collapse of 2008. They're so conditioned to seeing everything happening all at once and trying to predict everything on a specific day, Shemitah, turn dates. Instead of actually look, for the most part in history, things are incremental. There's very few one-day events, 9/11, August 5th, D-Day. Usually history, big changes in history are incremental. They don't necessarily all happen. Not that they can't all happen at once, but I think too many people sit around thinking how they can predict the event that's going to change everything. And coin, I want to revisit and get, I see this all the time, and I think it's endemic in the gold and silver and Bitcoin community. Now, Maneko64 is a very good analyst. He does a good program. Go check it out over on Maneko64. And Illuminati Silver had done a video, and they've got this very, we'll tell you the truth about silver. And they put this, and the guy says about a paragraph in 3 hours, and he talks very slowly. And in this particular video that Maneko is commenting on, I don't know what his name, I used to know his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter what his name is. Well, it does matter, but it doesn't matter for purposes of these discussions. They did a video which was quite good. It said why silver won't ever be used as a backing for a currency. And he went, the main thrust of Illuminati Silver's argument is that there's just too much value in the world to back with gold, or especially silver, given the amount of silver that there is and the current price that it's at, and it would have to be in the tens of thousands of dollars. Now, Maneko64 makes the point, I would accept silver or bullion or coin anywhere from anyone for payment. So in my book, it doesn't matter that the powers that be and the banks there say it's not money. And that gets people riled up and like, yeah, you go, Maneko, you tell them gold is money, period. Silver is money, period. Doesn't matter what those banksters tell us or the powers that be. Now, before I get into my response to this, many people, they nod their heads and they say, yes, he is right. Gold is money, period. Doesn't matter who says it isn't. Like when Ron Paul asked Ben Bernanke, is gold money? And Ben goes, not really. It's just tradition. That's why golds have it. And Ron Paul, Rand's his son. Ron gets very annoyed. Is like, yeah, wow. Who told you that you can revoke rules of money? In other words, that somehow it's self-evident to everyone else that gold is money, period, and that Ben Bernanke can't tell you it's not money. Well, gold is only money if everyone says it is. If everyone doesn't say it's money anymore, I mean, everything value is collectively derived upon. Now, you may value things more than others. There's nothing wrong with that. Your kid may make a finger painting and you may think it's priceless. But you also know that no one else does, that the reason you like the finger painting is because it's your kid. There may be certain foods you like that you love, and you know that a lot of people may not like fluffernutters. Not everyone likes that, but it doesn't bother you. You like it. Now, what Mineko is doing is the same thing. He's saying his personal preference. I would accept silver bullion or coin anywhere from anyone. Okay, good for you. For payment. So in my book, his book, doesn't matter that the banks, the powers that be, the banksters, the roster, whoever, doesn't accept it. Now, there's a problem with that way of thinking. It's factual. He's absolutely entitled to say he likes that, and he can say he likes fluffernutter, and he likes to mix beer and sparkling wine together. He's entitled to do that too. He's entitled to his food preferences, his monetary. Everyone's entitled to their own preferences. There's no two ways about it. But I think the problem in that kind of thinking, and I've got a few more examples of it, is that that's not what determines overall value. So I say you might accept it, but 99% of the population of the United States would and do not. So you can go to Mineko and say, listen, I need you to write a report for me. And he says, what on? You say, well, I want you to write me something up on Federal Reserve interest rates. And he says, okay, my fee is $500. And the person says, do you mind if I pay in silver? And he says, no problem, I'll take silver. Fine. That's great that he will take silver, and he'll view that as a fair exchange for his labor. But his book or his view is irrelevant to the definition of money or to the definition of value. And he says, well, he says it's relevant to me. No doubt, of course it is. But the world's monetary system and people's spending and saving habits are not determined by his preferences. I think too many people think because they've learned something, they view it as factual. It's really their opinion or their view of the world, that somehow that's how the world operates, or at least if it doesn't operate now, eventually the world will come around to my way of thinking because I happen to have this superior wisdom and insight that others don't, because I know gold is money, period. He goes on, only I can determine my preferences. Absolutely. But I think, and I'm not even sure he's not really even making the argument that I'm making for him. He is saying, I would take gold and silver. I don't care what the banks say. I don't care what anyone says. I will take it. And he's saying, that's my relevance. That's my preference. Only I can determine that. I don't have a problem with that. The problem I have is when people think that therefore that's the way the world is or should be. And he's not making that point. And I say, correct, you can only determine your preference as each person does. Collectively, individual preferences make up the market. But your preference in opposition to the powers that be in the banks have no impact on the overall market that rejects the use of silver as a monetary asset or even exchange. Now, when I say this, I believe that that is a factual statement. It's not my preference. It's not my opinion that that's the way the world is. That is the way the world is. And a lot of people interpret when I say that, that means that I personally am against gold and silver. Personally, I am not. I too would accept gold or silver for my services in certain circumstances. However, that doesn't mean that the markets accept it. And a lot of people think that, well, then the markets are stupid, and we're going to get to this in a minute. And Maneko is not making this argument. We're going to see in another example where someone else somewhat made that argument. And this, again, is factual. There is no functioning economy on Earth where silver is used in everyday currency, notwithstanding the fact that Maneko or myself would accept payment for it. There is not the widespread use of acceptance of silver. And then you get this, you'll see, not yet, but it's coming. And the reason for that, I'm not sure why people think it's coming. They only think it's coming because they think that the world somehow is going to act according to their preferences. Again, Maneko didn't say this. Convinced that its state of play is factual. Silver is not and has not these 50 years. That is a fact. And it's irrelevant whether you would accept it or you would want to accept gold or silver. And I say silver is valuable, but it's not money. And the reason it's not money, to beat a dead horse, that is no longer used as transportation, is that it's not used as a functioning currency, unit of account, medium of exchange. That's a fact. Used to be, but it's not. And again, I don't disagree that metal should be used, or that I would accept it. And I do it when people send me, although no one has ever sent me. Now that I think about it, I've received checks, Bitcoin, Litecoin, PayPal, Patreon, but no one has sent me any silver. So I'll ask for it. So there you go. Okay, my point is they are not, and there is no reasonable expectation that they will be in the future. And a lot of silver bugs and gold bugs actually believe, oh, it's just inevitable. That when it collapses, it's inevitable. Gold and silver. We'll have to return to gold and silver. And the rationale for that thought is, in order to regain confidence in the financial system, gold and silver will have to be used. Why? Who on earth today is thinking that they would need to gold and silver other than gold and silver bugs? I'm not saying it wouldn't be a good idea. I'm just saying don't expect the, quote, masses. They say the masses will rush into gold and silver. Why would they? If they're not rushing into it now and they have had no experience with gold or silver, all you have to do is watch a Mark Dice video. They don't know what gold or silver it is. They might as well, in a financial collapse, say, yeah, back it with a chocolate bar, because that's what they pick over the gold and silver. So I'm not sure where people get the idea that we're going to have a collapse and we'll rule. I don't know where they get that from other than from other gold and silver pumping channels. Yeah. Now, Bowman makes a very good point. This is one for you guys to think about. He says, you're right. It's not that there's no, and he says there is no reasonable expectation for metals. I'm saying it's our own fault that it's this way, and he's absolutely right. No reasonable person would expect to go from one system to a nothing system. There is no system to replace it, is the problem. No person or organization has said much more than go back to gold because the Constitution says so. Then he says, people like you, Mario, that's his name, that's Maneko's name, Mario and others that could create this system haven't collaborated and built something. I think he's giving me far too much credit. I have no influence on this, and probably Mario more credit too. He's saying, to be clear, I'm not saying you specifically, simply people of your knowledge and reach, yeah, my 3,600 subscribers, have the ability. And I think Maneko has a far more modest count than I have, but I don't even think he has 30,000. We lack leaders outside of government. That is absolutely true. And leaders in government, too. He's absolutely right there, with a plan and platform reaching millions. If we had that, we might have the opportunity to go from not to is. I agree with that. I haven't seen any of your work, but I'll head over and sub after this. The reason I like Bowman is because Bowman doesn't agree with me, but he agrees with the fact that we do not use gold and silver as a currency. We don't use it as money. There are many people who hear me say that and they just switch off. Who is this guy? He says gold is not money. He's an idiot. He's a shill. He'll see one day when I buy a house with a monster box of Silver Eagles, he'll understand. Okay. So it is this insistence that gold is money and concern over price, rather than, as you point out, urging for fiscal sanity that dooms gold and silver bugs to be bitter clingers, upset that the world doesn't see the things their way, and comforting themselves with this "you'll see," which in my opinion, there won't be a "you'll see" moment. I think the best shot for silver to skyrocket will be the same reason palladium skyrocketed: industrial demand, not monetary demand. I may be wrong, but that is the way things are. George V says silver may not be money, but it can be used as effective exchange medium when doing business. I agree with that. And it is a good store of value. I agree with that. A value that is recognized around the world. Peace. That is correct. It still can be used, he says. I think he's clinging to the idea that it can be, but it's not. But he's right. It can be. That's the dormant money concept. And then I say, yes, silver is valuable and can be and certainly has been a medium of exchange. There's no doubt about that. In the debate I had with, I was going to say J.P. Morgan, but his name is David Morgan, the silver guru. That's the point I made. It's dormant money. It does not get used currently as a medium of exchange. But silver's use as a currency is not why it has value. Much in the same way a horse is valuable, even though a horse is not used as a primary means of transportation. Okay, so then I had another discussion with someone and of the same view. Gold and silver are money, period. This debt is unsustainable. You hear this all the time. And this is a bubble. And I asked, what if life is a series of bubbles or life itself is a bubble? Often people talk as if they themselves are eternally clinging to their charts and data, shouting unsustainable, insisting you'll see. Well, your own life is unsustainable, and how long are you going to hold on to a chart or some data or some facts that you believe are facts that prove gold and silver are money and we're eventually going to return to them? Your whole life? People act as if they keep saying, I have time, I'm patient. You don't have time. You don't have 80 years. Most people listening to this do not have 80 years to wait this out. They don't have 70 years to wait it out. And this whole, it's all fake. Ever since 2000, it's all fake. No, it's been the reality since 2008. Whatever the debt reality, whatever the world is, you may not like it. You may say it's unsustainable. But people have been born, lived, died, made fortunes, bought houses, bought land, whatever they've done during this period of time. It's not like a week or two. It's 10 years that these people are insisting it's fake. And then I had this conversation with the guy from GoldSeek, very smart guy, Peter Spina. He has a very good website called GoldSeek. And he writes, 20 years I was told to never underestimate the stupidity of the American consumer. That's good advice. The rational, exuberant times seem to be endless with the artificial... See, this is when they get into this artificially fueled bubble, which are more and more extreme, which he's absolutely right. We've moved from... We had the... first we had the internet bubble, then we had the housing bubble, then we have the everything bubble. It just continues on and on. They do burst, but so far lead us to the next one. Now, that's the point. That's my original point is maybe we just live from one bubble to the next. And that's why I think the cryptos are going to bubble up next. This is just the way the world is. They've created everything from bubble to bubble. And he says the greatest credit bubble. But I think the fatal flaw is always thinking that one is smarter than what the rest of the sheeple are doing. A lot of people, now again, Peter didn't use these terms, sheeple, but that's the mentality a lot of people have, is that the sheeple don't understand. You know, calling things that others put value in as fake or artificial, and then calling what you like is real, I think is short-sighted, as others determine value, not your own charts or data. Now, how does that impact us? It's the same thing with your house. You may fix it up. You may do everything you want to. You may make it perfect. If your neighbors are all criminals or slobs or worse, your house value, it depends on what they do. No matter what you do to your house, they can actually ruin the value of your house. Similarly, if people don't believe that what you believe is real, again, if they don't value gold or silver, well, then the gold and silver are not valuable. Why? Because you need buyers to buy your silver because other people need to think it's valuable. But if a lot of people don't think that it is, well, then it's not. And so you can call them sheeple, and you could say, well, let them waste their money on fake and artificial and chase bubbles. Well, maybe it's smart to chase bubbles. Maybe it makes sense to do that. Peter then says, I certainly don't feel smarter over the last year seeing the herd mentality repeat their same mistakes and rewarded for playing. I feel Then he says, this is interesting, I will feel vindication during the next transfer of wealth cycle. Knowing it can be years away, it's artificial because you can't make something from nothing. Marvis joins in. The herd is the market economy and the economy. The problem with hard asset mentality is that they are right, the sheeple are wrong, and one day the world will bow to your ideas. Now, he's right there. That's what the unfortunate part is. You may think you're smart and you may think you've got it figured out, but the market or the sheeple are actually the ones driving the ship, or the powers that be, and the sheep will follow. Whatever it is, it's not the people that think that they're smart and got it figured out. And they ignore that the new normal is out of whack, yes, but they insist that they know better. Well, back to what Peter says. He says, I will feel vindication during the next transfer of wealth because I know, even if it's years away, it's artificial, because you can't make something from nothing. Now, we've heard that before. But the problem with vindication is that is not an investment strategy. I think it's akin to a mental disorder where you're seeing cognitive dissonance, whatever you want to use it. You're seeing something happen. And it shouldn't happen in the way you look at things. And it shouldn't happen, I guess, even in the way you might even say objectively others might look at it. But again, it's not necessarily objective because the Austrian School of Economic view is, a lot of people view this as factual, but this is just a theory that entrepreneurs are tricked by these artificially low interest rates, and then what happens is they make the malinvestments, and then because they made the malinvestment and there really wasn't the demand there, they wasted all this money, they were tricked because of the low interest rates, and then because things didn't work out the way they wanted them to, the malinvestments will ultimately get liquidated, and then you can see if they were smart and they weren't tricked, then they wouldn't have lost all their money. But in reality, that's not what happens. Over the last 10 years, there's been plenty of malinvestments where companies have tossed money into projects that don't make money. Tesla, for example. Zillow is another example. Did those entrepreneurs lose money as a result of being tricked by the low interest rates and the speculative environment? No way, Jose. They've made fortunes, literal fortunes, even though their companies have made no money, by selling stock in. They're kind enough if Tesla's done this, but I'm sure people who work at Tesla have cashed in their stock options. I mean, Elon Musk. And people at Zillow, I know, have cashed in their options and made a fortune, even though their companies made no money. So these people know exactly what they're doing, and they know how to play the bubble. As Mark points out, they're playing the new normal, and they're profiting immensely from it. And yet you still have people insisting, this is wrong, it's artificial, it's fake. And when the world figures out, that's when, that's when I'm going to be vindicated. I don't understand how anyone is vindicated by this. Because it's obvious to me that nothing is sustainable. Anything that is living is not sustainable. That's a fact. Nothing is sustainable. To sit there and puff yourself up and say, look at this is unsustainable. Peter Schiff does this all. He's been saying it's unsustainable and eventually everything is going to collapse. And I'm like, yeah, tell me something we don't know. It's amazing how many people pat themselves on the back for pointing out it's the obvious. That's like saying your life is unsustainable. Joe, you're going to die. Mary, you're going to die. And then when you do, you say, if you're still around, you don't die first. Ha ha, see I was right? There's no genius in that. And they wait for to be proven right. Unsustainable bubble. Look at this chart. listen to this podcast, and then people do it. They go from one YouTube to the other, listening to podcasts, unsustainable Ponzi scheme. Wait till they realize the value of gold and silver. Maybe they won't. Or maybe they will in 100 years. Who knows? So, I think it's maybe intelligent to understand the herd mentality or the Fed, whatever it is, and realize that it's maybe not a mistake to play along and get rewarded. Vindication is not a good investment strategy unless it's your life goal to claim greater understanding of markets and to spout cliches like, no one gets something for nothing. Yeah, you sound smart, but do you make any money off of repeating that? Maybe you do if you sell ads on a YouTube channel, but generally, that statement doesn't make you any money. But let's get now into Game Over Bitcoin. Now, this is inspired by a guy named, what was his name? His name was Scarface. Remember Tony Montana? I would do a Tony Montana imitation, and I can do a very good one, but the problem is the amount of expletives that go along with Tony Montana is very hard. Okay. Do you like ice cream? Girl like ice cream. All right, let's see now. Let's look at Game Over Bitcoin. Back in 2011, Forbes. So that's the end of Bitcoin. Yep. They figured the price went down. Forbes is out there. They're writing how Bitcoin is over. Now, Scarface wrote this nice little tweet storm where he started with this Forbes article. And he says, Bitcoin, story of failure. So, that's the end of Bitcoin then? And he cites this Forbes article. You see the price had gone up to, I don't know, it was like $10 or something. And it went back down. It went to $15 and then crashed. And so, according to Forbes, that's the end of it. And then in 2013, same thing. Game Over Bitcoin. Business Insider. It got up to $110 and collapsed again. You can see it circled on the thing there. Now what? Again, looking at the price, not realizing that Bitcoin hasn't changed. There's been more development of the ecosystem, more investment, more everything, more hash rate. Just the price went down, and of course, Business Insider is saying Game Over Bitcoin. 2015, Jaime Dimon. Bitcoin will not survive. No way, Jose. Yeah, people are wasting their time with digital currencies like Bitcoin while he's scrambling to try to come out with JP Morgan coin 5 years later. I'll be surprised if it's even here in 5 years. Chuckle, chuckle. All right, then we move up to 2018. It's over for Bitcoin. There it is. Bitcoin going to zero. Forbes again. You know, it got down to $3,300. It was beginning of its inevitable and inexorable death speed, as Salivate Metal would say. And now what's interesting in all this, I'm not predicting this, but there is history in this that each time Bitcoin has crashed, 70%, the following cycle peak has been 5 to 16 times higher than the previous. If that happens again, and of course that's an if, and it's not investment advice, and it's not a prediction, then the next all-time high will be roughly 102,000 to 336,000, which leads Tony Montana to say, roll the dice and take a risk, buy Bitcoin. All right, let's see what you guys have been thinking. I want to thank you for joining me this evening, and as you join me every evening, many of you, which I do appreciate, the quality of the audience, not necessarily the size of it. Let's see what we got here. What are our friends saying here? Bob the Monk. Bitcoin is at 37.74. Lord Humongous. Who picks Smaulgld or silver? Not sure what you mean, Lord Humongous. But good to see you over here. You were on that thread with Maneko64 over there at Illuminati Silver. Will we tell you the truth about silver? All right, Ann is here. Pablo is here. They're all here. The gang's all here. Pablo's getting a poor connection. Oh, no, 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 no. Keeps cutting out. Don't like that. Oh. Game over for Bitcoin. Lewis, I missed the chunk. I'm unaware. Oh. No, I didn't notice it. Well, we'll have to go back and listen. All right. Let's see. Boston Bob. Every TV show, movie, newspaper always have a story of someone striking it rich, finding gold bars or coins. Lucky is cute. Yes, we see dogs. Maneko is entitled to say and speak as Trump is entitled to issue free speech in universities. Chrono Trigger fan. It's coming because they know what is coming. Buy silver. Free speech is good. All right. Chuck Plata. For any and all persons who would accept silver and gold for payment products or services, be wise to have a good scale and a PM tester. That is true. Fiona Whalen. I have no problem selling antique silverware pieces on eBay. Same with silver coins. I guess silver has value without being money. Yes, that is my point. Chuck Plata. Libertad he's talking about. Crypto Shrugged author lives outside the U.S. $700 pays my expenses, maid, gardener, utilities, and rent. I like the maid and gardener. $300 for food and drink, $1K a month. The rest I speculate with. That's nice. All right. I've been in Chiapas for 9 months, going to Spain now shortly. Spain's a lot of fun. You guys are talking about imposing your wills. Chuck and Plot. Okay, the dollar is crap, but people still have faith in it. That's right. The people that go around saying the dollar's toilet paper, it's crap, I say send it my way. And the reason I say that, it's not my opinion. My opinion is irrelevant. Your opinion that it's crap is irrelevant. Not that you, maybe you do. It doesn't matter. The world accepts it. That gives it value. Period. In fact, more people would take dollars than they'll take gold and silver because they are stupid and they don't understand real money. It is an illusion. Well, it doesn't matter. People accept dollars. I'm not a shill for the dollar. It's just a fact. So if you think they're worthless, there's an address you're looking at right now. You can send them physical form. You can write checks in dollars. Relieve yourself of them if you think they are worthless. Okay, silver stack for life. But if silver is $15 today, and then in 20 years it is $50, that you still didn't make money because the dollar lost value. I don't know what that means. What's everyone drinking tonight in their Smaulgld mugs, says Crypto Shrugged offer. He's drinking Maker's Mark. All right. It's good to see people putting their mugs to good use. What else do we have? Canadian funds. All right. Fiona. USSR eventually collapsed. USA Today. That's a newspaper, Fiona. Looks more like Soviet Union 1989 than itself during the same period. That's possible. Hey. No one is denying that things can happen. There can be big events. The United States could collapse. China could collapse. The EU can implode. There's no guarantees in any of this. But there's no guarantee that silver is set to skyrocket either. All right, what else? All right, I think that's it then. I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight, and I was hoping to get a little more comments on what I was saying, but you guys are talking about other stuff, but that's okay. It's always nice to have you here each and every evening, and we will see you again tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is the 4th of March, so thank you very much, and we will see you tomorrow. Buenas noches. Buonanotte. Okay, we got another comment here. William Birkenroad, the silver community is its own retail market for coins and rounds. That's true. Yes, but the price that you pay is determined by people outside the community, what they pay for silver in general. How pleasant. There's quite a spread between spot and actual purchase on most silver coins. We take advantage. Yep. That is true. Okay. Good nacht. Tack så mycket, as they say in Norway or Sweden.